name's Jeff Stevenson, the mission strategist and chairperson for Parramatta-Nepean Presbytery, and I bring greetings from our presbytery to yours. And our thoughts and prayers are with you as we both share in these strategic conversations around collaborative mission for our congregations, trying to seek the best way for the church to move forward in this uncertain and challenging time. And collaborative mission is the kind of language we're using for bringing 2 to 3 or more congregations together, not merging or amalgamating, but creating a new entity. Often one congregation ministering over several sites and providing a diverse range of mission and services and worship and ministry. With a ministry team of lay and ordained, paid and unpaid, using diverse gifts to reach out and work with God in the mission that God is already doing in our communities. So we're using this process across our presbytery, and part of the reason I guess we've discovered that where there's a couple of neighbouring congregations, 2 or 3, they've each got a church council, a treasurer and the administrative structures. They've each got a minister full-time or part-time. And we're finding that there's a duplication of ministry and forms across those things. Each minister is ministering predominantly to the Sunday morning, typical, perhaps more traditional congregation, the pastoral care and the associated ministries around that. There's not a lot of time or energy for the new creative thing. And so what we're trying to do is if we bring them together under one governance structure, so one church council, we can have one treasurer, one secretary, one chair, a smaller, more efficient governance structure. So it's not tying people up in that kind of structure, but releasing people for ministry. And we can build a ministry team where there are diverse gifts. And so ministers and lay leaders and community ministers, pastors, whatever collection we have as a ministry team, can use their diverse gifts in new and creative ways. Some will be ministering to the older traditional group who won't change. Some will be in that middle group who are moving between and need to be pushed forward into the new thing. And some are on the fringe where there's connections and contacts and mission into the community, into the wider world, and discipleship, evangelism and so forth. So we're trying to build those sorts of teams. One of the stories would be Parramatta. Parramatta is probably our most complex at the moment. We have Northmead and Centenary North Parramatta congregations. We've already brought them together under an interim governance structure, one church council where they're both working together. That happened during COVID when the key leader and treasurer of Centenary congregation died suddenly, and they didn't have any way to replace him. So we brought them together in an interim way. At that time there was a minister placed at Northmead and a student in Centenary, and they worked together during COVID lockdown and provided an online service which brought both congregations together online in a Zoom worship, and that was broadcast also onto Facebook. So the congregations began working together in a wider way. The church councils were one entity working together. And as part of the conversation, we'd begun already with Parramatta Mission, which was divesting a lot of its services, which particularly were a drain on the congregation ministry and resources, were a drain on the financial resources and needed a complete overhaul and restructure. So they were divested out to Uniting as a better structure for some of those services to be best governed and resourced. So that left Parramatta Mission with 3 congregations and smaller range of services. The conversation between Northmead Centenary and Parramatta Mission has been gentle for the first part, and we put in a transitional ministry team. When the ministry team, the ministers at Parramatta Mission concluded their placements, we put in a transitional team to try and help move this entity, these 2 entities, towards something new. We created a vision with some of those ministers and lay leaders and members of Presbytery. And that vision was a bigger thing around creating one entity, one congregation, that would minister, worship and serve, worship, witness and service, I guess, over 4 sites. Those 4 sites, we have the site in the Western Campus, we're calling it, the Westmead site, in the midst of the largest health precinct in the medical precinct in the Southern Hemisphere, with 4 major hospitals, psychiatric, general, children's and private, large array of medical specialties and services, and the church is in the midst of that precinct, along with the university and aged care, Uniting Ageing Centre. And so what we're seeking to do is, what would ministry and mission look like in that place? What is God already doing within that community, within that space? And how can the church engage with God's mission as it's already being offered? We have a motel, we have Wesley Apartments. Wesley Apartments provides accommodation for families whose kids are in the children's hospital long term. The motel serves a whole range of community, but particularly people in the hospital. And there's caring and compassionate services around that. How can we build on that? What does ministry in that site look like? Grief and loss and counselling and pastoral care, healing services. When would worship best be offered? In what ways? What other groups might be part of this ministry? So looking at that context of Westmead and what sort of ministry support and resourcing would be best for there. And then the Parramatta CBD around Lee Memorial Church, where there's development going on, not only in the wider community, but on the church's sites. What sort of city ministry is best suited for that part of Parramatta? In Sydney City, we have different models of church. We have St Stephen's, we have Wayside Chapel, we have Pitt Street, we have Wesley Mission. Where does Parramatta Mission, Lee Memorial Church, fit into that? What sort of model of church do we want to build and grow there? Serving the homeless people through Meals Plus, the community of the university, particularly international students who are a bit poorer and struggling, or the corporate life, or the business life, or the employees who flock into the city every day, or those who are starting to move in and live in the city, or the political life. How do we minister in a prophetic way into those spaces? There's the North Parramatta Centenary site, which is in the midst of higher rise and medium and high density living, highly multicultural, transient populations. On that site we have English classes and we have playgroups already, and it's open up for youth activities as part of particularly the Fijian congregation that meets at Lee Memorial. A better space for youth activities. It's a place where we're looking towards a church plant, an emerging or younger generation, youth, young adult, multicultural church plant. So finding the right person to come in and plant a church in that space with the support of the people of this Parramatta City Uniting Church, as we're calling it. Then there's the Northern Campus, which embraces the Northmead site. And there's a men's shed, there's adolescent family counsellor there. There are many groups and activities that use the site. There are fresh expressions, jazz worship that happens once a month. There's also craft groups and other sorts of groups and activities on that site. We're looking ahead to maybe having parenting classes that we've had in the past, and a whole variety of maybe educational spaces for people to come and learn and grow. Groups around meditation, spirituality, social enterprise, learning new skills. So what we're trying to look at is how we use these sites in particular ways, and how we resource ministry on those sites, and how worship, ministry, witness, service can be more reflective of the context and what God is already doing in those spaces. So I don't know whether that offers you something of what we're trying to do. And as we build a ministry team with a team leader, we're looking for a diverse range of gifts that can serve in different ways and bring those gifts to bear. Release the gifts of the lay people. And we're also looking for ways in which these particular ministries, people in those congregations can actually say, I feel called to participate over there or over here or over there. And there may be multiple different ways in which people participate across the life of this regional church, and ways in which this church can serve even beyond its boundaries and be a source of resourcing and creative ideas for other congregations. So that's something of what we're trying to do. If you want to talk more about this or explore it more deeply, or if you have ideas or questions that might help us, we're happy to learn from you and share what we're learning with you as we together engage in this collaborative kind of mission and create the church moving into the future. So our thoughts and prayers are with you as you engage around these themes, and we look forward to further conversations with you. God be with you. Amen.